not the training. We have comparable training in the West, but we're much more advanced in restoration, helping the body to regenerate itself after physical. Because what you have to realize, world-class athletes are in a constant state of breakdown. So how do you normalize the body and allow it to really repair itself and in the process up your potential? And so he said, there's some work that is really top secret, but I'm no longer in the Soviet Union, but there's someone that you probably ought to talk to who's kind of the father of this area of what's called adaptogens. And we were curious, and we said, well, who is this individual? And I said, well, it's a Dr. Israel Breckman. And we said, well, let's get him to this country. Well, he's 72 years old and he lives in the Soviet Union. I don't know that we can get him out. We said, we'll get him out. And we brought him to this country kind of under the guise of a scientific symposium, which took place in our living room. And in those conversations, we were stunned because this was an individual. He got his start actually. His role was as a pharmacologist, trying to keep soldiers awake to be able to defend Stalingrad against the German invasion. And they were using drugs, amphetamines and who knows what. And he pledged that when the war was over, that he wanted to find natural substances that could enhance performance, that didn't take the toll and weren't so destabilizing as drugs can be. And so he was the one that probably first identified the most studied adaptogen at that time was ginseng. In fact, Siberian ginseng is probably known as the king of adaptogens. And because of his success in showing that these natural products could not only enhance human performance, but could protect the body from the effects of stress. What the Soviets did is they kept that as a closely guarded secret. And they used it in their sports program, they used it in their space program, areas that they were trying to really, show their system was superior to what was happening in the West. And in these conversations in our living room, he said, I'd love to share my technology with you. And we said, well, we'd like to share it with the world. And he said, well, you can't do that because, number one, they'd probably execute my family and all this other kind of stuff. And literally, the conversations that we had that started it was in December of, I think, 1990, where we all of a sudden said, but he said, but I'll give you the technology so you can use it for yourself. But over that course of the 2 weeks is when the Soviet Union collapsed. And so the conversations we were having about this collaboration that couldn't happen 2 weeks before, suddenly there was a window of opportunity. So when the Soviet Union collapsed, you got to understand the government employed everybody, including his 1,500 scientists. And his big worry is, I need to get back to the Soviet Union because all these people are without a job. And I said, well, I'm going with you. And I remember I saw the bread lines and everything like that, and I said, okay, I went over with a suitcase full of cheese, a suitcase full of salami, and a money belt with about $200,000. Remember saying bye to Kathy, I'll be back maybe. and it was an amazing time. I mean, it was talk about the Wild West. It was pretty crazy. But in that time, what we realized is that, imagine 1,500 scientists that worked at a laboratory that was called the Institute of Biologically Active Substances. Their whole goal was to study plant life, marine life, and animal life, to see were there substances that could actually have this balancing effect on the body, enhance performance in a natural way that didn't have the negative effects of drugs. And so we got access to that technology, and I went over and I hired 50 of his top people, and with the intention that, with the Soviet Union, they may have started up again. I didn't know. I wanted to get that technology out. And so it was that relationship that we really brought the adaptogens to the Western world. And
wow.
And so what you have in Ionix, what you have in eShots, what we've been able to include in ashwagandha and some of the substances that are truly unique that people are starting to buzz around. There's real science behind that. I'm talking about literally thousands of clinical trials of work that was done in secret in the former Soviet Union and in Eastern Bloc countries. But we have that. And in fact, we still source a lot of the raw materials from those relationships that we made when I was over there. So
that's impressive.
Yeah.
That's very, very impressive. It is really impressive to see that we have what we have here. Kathy, you and Jim have been married for 35 years now, 35 years. I know that, you're never had a fight, never had a fight,
Never.
argument, never. But you have this vision to impact world and free people from physical and financial pain, and you guys have had that ever since I've joined 10 years ago. And you value every single one of these people very much. But